hosting, and domain names at ozsome.com. Wednesday weather forecast, clouds and showers and a few thunderstorms today, tonight, and Thursday. Flood watch remains in effect through Thursday. There might be some severe thunderstorms through tomorrow as well. The high this afternoon, mid to upper 60s, low 50s tonight, and low 60s tomorrow. Finally, Friday, we dry out with sunshine in the low to mid 50s. Your life, your music, we're KLEK 102.5 FM.
From Feature Story News in London, I'm Ollie Barrett. The United Nations says North Korea has been sending equipment to Syria that could be used to make chemical weapons. President Trump's son-in-law and advisor Jared Kushner has had his security clearance downgraded. Serious disruption continues to be caused by heavy snowfall and freezing conditions across the UK, and the body of the Bollywood actress Sridevi has arrived in Mumbai, where her funeral will take place.
It's 9:01.
KLEK LP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for Community Conversations, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place, while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
KLEK 102.5 FM. Good morning to you on your Wednesday, and our phone line is already ringing. I see it's Reverend Culver. Reverend Culver, call us back in just a few. We'll open up the phone lines, and we'll be glad to take your call then. This is Community Conversations. Kato Wonder is in the studio with you. I have my usual host, the birthday girl herself, Miss Quabila Jones. She is, if you watch on our Facebook live feed, she is pinked out, blinged out, got the nails with the girl got her own custom nail polish, y'all. But anyway, even though it's her birthday, we still do have a show to do. And joining us today is Sergeant Lyle Waterworth of the Jonesboro Police Department. Sergeant Waterworth is the new Community Relations, and that may not be the official title, but officer for the Jonesboro Police Department. He recently replaced Sergeant Cassie Brandon, who has taken on a little bit different career in law enforcement. We just want to thank Sergeant Brandon for all the things that she done for the community, and definitely want to wish her well as she goes into her future. But now, this is kind of like an introduction for all of you out there to Sergeant Waterworth, and we're going to just sit down and have a talk with him today about some of the things that he plans to do for the community. So we want to thank Sergeant Waterworth for joining us today.
Hi, thank you for coming.
Good morning and happy birthday to you.
Thank you. So I'm going to give you the same treatment I give Chief. I ask him a bunch of questions. We're going to put you on the spot some. Because we care about the community. We want to hear the police perspective of what's going on around town. Before we get started, for those of you who didn't get to go to the NAACP meeting, tell them who you are and how long you've been with the force.
My name's Lyle Waterworth. I've been with the Jonesboro Police Department as an officer since 1999. But I started my career in Jonesboro as a 911 operator in 1994. Okay. So I've been in Jonesboro since 1994. I grew up in Pocahontas. Lived there for most of my life until I moved over here, and now I guess most of my life has been spent here in Jonesboro. So Jonesboro is home. I have a wife, Captain Lynn Waterworth of the Jonesboro Police Department. Okay. So she's the boss at home and at work. I have two wonderful children. I've got a son who's 24, about to be 25 years old. Wow. Lives in Louisville, Kentucky, where he's going to Southern Baptist Theological Seminary. Okay. And I have a daughter, Emily, who is about to be 19 years old, and a freshman at Arkansas State University.
Some grown kids.
Yes, ma'am.
Alrighty, so I'm sure those police skills come in handy when they try to get out of line.
I truly have been blessed with my children.
All right, so let's get into the topics of today. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you are you are taking over for Sergeant Cassie Brandon, basically being the community liaison, connecting the police department with the community and trying to help bridge the gap, build a better bridge, but bridging the gaps so that people can start looking up to, trusting in, turning to the police more often than not. Right. Okay. And so I know we talked a little bit off air and about some ideas that I had. I'm all about community, and I know that criminals are everywhere. you can't eradicate criminal behavior 100%. I mean, that's one thing I'm learning in my sociology classes. One thing I have learned that there are some factors that can play into whether a person becomes a criminal or not. One thing I'm sure you have seen is when it comes to limited resources, people will turn to other measures to get what they need. I know this is a very loaded question. I want to say, how can we help those individuals? I know it's beyond the police department. It's a citywide, community-wide thing. I mean, when it comes to people getting jobs or
right,
whatever the case may be, let's break that down to another level. When it comes to environments, again, going back to resources, housing, or I'm sorry I'm asking this question in a roundabout way. I'm kind of polite.
So let's talk about, let's break it down. The criminal aspect. How does it? So when I was a kid, and I know that you're a lot younger than me, but when I was a kid, when I messed up, my neighbors got with my parents. My neighbors called me out. My neighbors said, "Hey, Lyle, you need to start doing better."
Now we're not that much younger. We remember that too now.
So we got called out,
Okay.
and people took ownership in the community, and people took ownership with with everybody else's kids. We didn't. If I went outside and I did wrong, my neighbors knew, and before I got home, my parents were ready to get on to me and adjust my behavior.
And don't forget about that. They would whoop you, and then when you got home, you got that second whooping.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to bring up some bad memories, but that's okay.
I got you.
So, but community is just that. It's not just the people of the community. It's not just the house right next door to you.
Okay.
It's everybody
Thank you.
coming together and pushing society in one direction. We can't have society getting, well, it's okay. That's just Johnny being Johnny. If we see somebody doing something wrong, and we see somebody doing something that's wrong, we got to call people out.
Yes.
Regardless of who they are, regardless of where they grew up, we have to hold everybody just as accountable at every level.
Okay. All right, and there's some things, sometimes you see people that do have, say, mental illness or drug addiction or addictions, period.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like they need more help. I know that the Sheriff's Department and other individuals were working hard to get the crisis unit in here, but that didn't quite go as well at the time. And I wish people understand how much that is needed, because if you put non-criminals in a setting with other criminals, yes, the person may have committed a criminal act, but it was out of, say, a mental disorder. I don't want to take full responsibility away from them, but to some degree, they weren't working at their full capacity, mental capacity.
and that's understandable. But if we have those resources, like Sheriff Boyd was trying to get the crisis center here, and if we get that, and we have somebody who's has recognized problems and has recognized mental illness, recognized addictions, we can put them into not necessarily the jail setting, but a mental health setting, and get them the help that they need. And police don't arrest people because the more people we put in jail, we get a toaster, right? Of course, people don't remember banking that way anyway. But we do, however, get people. We're arresting people to try and get them the help that they need, more than putting people in jail, because we know what the outcome is a lot of times. Just like you said, if you take somebody who has a mental illness, mm-hmm. and you put them in a setting where there's a bunch of really bad people, they're going to learn those skills from the really bad people.
Yeah.
speaking with Sergeant Lyle Waterworth of the Jonesboro Police Department. And if you have a question or a comment for Sergeant Waterworth, or Lyle, as he has to be called for Lyle, you can give us a call at 870-277-1080. Once again, that phone number is 870-277-1080, or you can weigh in on our Facebook Live feed. We got a few Facebook shouts already. Shout out to Anthony Martin, Cora Evans Hester, David Carnes, Jeff Presley, and Tiffany Mosley. Appreciate each and every one of you for checking in on our Facebook Live feed.
All right, so let's take a different turn. Again, I'm always bringing things I'm learning in class to the table to help try to get a better understanding for myself and hopefully help someone else understand. So in one chapter, there was a story about the Chicago school. And bottom line, it says, these urban sociologists, this study was done back in early 1800s, up to 1952, in between that time frame. It says, these urban sociologists examined how neighborhood conditions such as poverty levels influence crime rates. They found that social forces operating in urban areas created a crime-promoting environment. Some neighborhoods were natural areas for crime. In urban neighborhoods with high levels of poverty, the fabric of critical social institutions, such as the school and the family, came undone. Their traditional ability to control behavior was undermined, and the outcome was a high crime rate. So let's look at Jonesboro. Yes, we have areas that may be considered undesirable, but from a police perspective, is there a way to help make it more desirable?
Again, I want to say the word, and it's community. It's all about community. If I live in a house, when I first move into that house, if the house, the paint isn't done well, or the grass looks bad, or the windows are broken. There's something called the broken windows theory, right? So if I take ownership in that house and I make that house look good, I have ownership in that neighborhood, right? I may just be renting the house, or I may just be staying there with some folks, but I'm staying in that house. If I start making the house look good, my neighbors are going to say, you know what, that looks good. I want to take ownership into mine, and then it starts to spread, and people start having ownership, and then all of a sudden this spot that was dingy a little bit starts getting cleaned up. And when you drive your car around and your car looks bad and it's dirty, this time of year your car doesn't. I'm a clean car guy, so if my car looks dirty, I don't like my car as well. Okay, but when I clean my car and I get all the brake dust off the wheels and get all that stuff, the salt from the snow and the ice, when I get it off there and my car is shiny, I'm proud of my car, right? The same thing happens with our house.
So what I would love to see, and I know that there have been community cleanups. I would love to see them ongoing, not just one time of year. I know there takes a lot of logistics to really plan those events out. We've had conversations with Dr.
Coleman,
Reverend Coleman, Charles Coleman, who's on the city council, and other members of the city council. And it takes a lot of planning for those, and it takes motivating and getting people moving to make those happen. So
it's expensive too. So, used to, I can remember when I first started at the police department, shortly after I first started, we had some community-oriented policing, Department of Justice grants. And we had people in the community going out and trying to find those grants, and that's how we cleaned up. We tore down houses that were beyond repair with those grants, and we cleaned up parts of town, the northwest part of town. Over in the area where Dr. Coleman lives, there was some grants, but what happened is they decided on what areas had the most need for community-oriented policing, and that's where they went in, and that's where they started, and then it spread, and we got over on the northeast side of town, over towards Cedar Heights area, and started cleaning that area up, and it started looking good. But then the money dried up. And it's hard to keep something going without the resources. So how do we do that? Maybe we just start with one pickup. Maybe some neighbor says, "Hey, I've got a pickup," and another neighbor says, "Hey, I've got a trailer."
That'd be awesome.
And hey, we'll go ahead and haul all this old furniture that somebody said, "Hey, I don't want to take this to a dumpster. I don't want to take this to the dump. I'm just going to throw it out over here on this vacant lot." And we get 2 or 3 people from the neighborhood to say, "Let's do this. Let's clean this up."
Okay.
And it may be money out of their pocket at first, but people will see that, and I think people will respond to that and in kind help out.
And I think that's important because you talk about having the pride in the ownership. Well, in that neighborhood, there may be, for example, an elderly person who may want to fix their house up, but they can't afford it. They don't have the money to maybe do repairs or to paint it.
They don't have the physical strength.
Right.
And so if the neighbors say, "Well, we know Miss Judy down the road can't afford to fix up her house. Let's help her do it for her. Let's chip in and buy the paint and paint it for her."
Right. And I've through church, I've gone on mission trips where that's all we did.
Okay.
We went from neighborhood to neighborhood, house to house, and in the summertime, cleaned up flower beds, painted houses, painted insides of houses, did our best to help clean up their neighborhood, not because they couldn't afford it, but because they couldn't do it. They couldn't physically get out and do it. And I think that's what it comes down to.
Well, I would love to see us as a community being community again. And I'm not, throwing jabs at anyone who does their part. Mm-hmm. And I know there are people who want to do, they just don't know how to get started. Well, let's start having these conversations on how to get started and taking better care of our neighborhood. And it's not about making your job easier as a police, but I think that would also increase the relationship between the community and the police. Police can ride around, see people positively doing things to better their neighborhoods and their environments. It may also make criminals less likely to infiltrate those neighborhoods as well.
Right. And so, I like to go back to Mayberry.
Okay.
So Aunt Bee sat on the porch and snapped peas, right?
Okay.
And she'd snap green beans, and she would watch, and she knew who was coming in the neighborhood. And if she knew somebody, and it's not just about the police, because you're in the neighborhood a lot more than I'm in the neighborhood. You live there. You have to police yourself, and it's about community-oriented policing. And community-oriented policing has absolutely nothing to do with this right here. It has nothing to do with my patch or my badge. It has to do with us watching out for each other. And if I see somebody that doesn't belong, who do I need to call? Now I need to call the police. Now I need to get some help over there because, hey, this clown doesn't belong over here, and he's up to no good.
Okay. So, I live on a street where it's at one point it was around you could drive around because there's 2 streets and so you used to drive around, and then when there were more kids, they cut it off so it was one way, so you had to be going to someone's house to go down. I think they've reopened it now, but long story short, there's a guy, and I used to get frustrated because he was always standing in the door, always watching. I felt like, okay, why is he always watching? But now that I've lived there several more years and things have happened in the neighborhood, I am totally appreciative of this person actually watching and seeing who's coming and going and riding up and down the street and recognizing cars. So I truly appreciate that.
Well, we get told from kindergarten on, don't be a tattletale, don't be a tattletale.
Oh my gosh.
And okay, so being a tattletale is bad, but is it? Hey, this guy is driving around in my neighborhood, pulling on car doors, opening car doors, getting stuff out. That's not being a tattletale. That's taking care of your neighbor.
That's right.
That's taking care of yourself, and that's taking care of your community.
Yeah, because the next door he may pull the handle may be yours.
Might be yours, and I don't want anybody taking my stuff. I work too hard for my stuff for somebody else to come and take it.
And unfortunately, we have seen the deadly results of someone not telling. With these school shootings, there was someone somewhere who knew something but didn't tell either the right people or enough people, and here we are.
Right.
Same thing with your neighborhoods. If you see something need to start telling it. And
but also, if somebody says something, when I say we, the police department needs to do something, and that's when we hear it, we need to act, and we do act here, and that's I'm pretty proud of our police department.
Okay.
I'm very proud of how far we've come over the last 5-10 years, and I see nothing but positive in the future too. So
ready?
And I definitely want to talk about that on the other side of the break. For some of the things that you want to do in the position. And of course, I also want to touch up on, for those who may not know, Sergeant Waterworth actually was the officer that was responsible for training all of the police officers when they get hired. You know, they would see him and he would kind of walk them through. In fact, at the NAACP meeting, he called them his baby officers, I believe. So
little baby policemen. Yeah.
So, on the other side of the break, we want to talk about, the transition from that, what experiences from being a trainer of officers can you take to this position going into community relations, and even some of the stories that officers, tell you while you're out training them as far as interacting with the community and how it all turns into community policing. And with that, we're going to get ready to go to break. We'll be back with more with Sergeant Lyle, can't talk today, Waterworth, on a birthday edition of my girl Kabila of Community Conversations. This is KLEK 102.5 FM.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
What should you not say to your kids? I'm Mark Merrill with today's Family Minute. Words matter. Words either build up or tear down. And as parents, we can never underestimate the power that a few careless words will have on our kids. Here are some things not to say to your kids. First, don't say nothing. When a dad chooses work or television or friends or sports over his child, the impact is lifelong. Be sure to share conversations with your children daily to build a deep, lasting relationship. Second, don't say, why can't you be more like so-and-so? Comparison kills the imagination and kills the heart. As a parent, you must understand that your child is unique and uniquely gifted. See that in them and encourage them to develop their gifts. And remember, your family first.
Family Minute is made possible by the Kappa Nu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, a non-profit organization committed to service to all mankind. Kappa Nu Omega Alpha Kappa Alpha on Facebook and KNOMEGA1908.com.
KLEK thanks CJ Pepper and the staff of Life Strategies Counseling Incorporated for helping people through hard times in life, such as depression, family issues, stress, abuse, and more. They offer counseling and therapy for all ages, individuals, families, and groups. They are located at 1217 Stone Street. Phone number 1-866-972-1268 or online at lscihelp.com.
The Mu Omicron Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated was established on January 1st, 1977, originally serving Blytheville, Arkansas, and now serving Jonesboro, Blytheville, Osceola, Marion, and West Memphis, Arkansas. Today, the chapter continues to make an impact by focusing on Alpha's national community outreach initiatives such as My Brother's Keeper, A Voteless People is a Hopeless People, Go to High School, Go to College, Project Alpha, Boy Scouts, and the March of Dimes. The Mu Omicron Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated is committed to Alpha's mission of developing leaders, promoting brotherhood and academic excellence, while providing service and advocacy to the community. More information about the Mu Omicron Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated is available at MOL Alphas on Facebook or via email at molalphas@gmail.com.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
And we're back on Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM with our guest Sergeant, I don't know what's wrong with me today, Sergeant Lyle Waterworth of the Jonesboro Police Department. That's he told you.
Sidekick today.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm just so excited for your birthday that you just got me. I can't talk straight. So,
Oh Lord.
so as we were saying before we went to break, wanted to talk with Lyle about his past role as a trainer for the Jonesboro Police Department. Basically, whenever new officers were hired into the department, Lyle was responsible for helping them get trained and helping get them ready to get out on the street. So I just wanted to get his perspective on how that, is going to help him with community relations.
So knowing what my little baby policemen, as I like to call them, knowing what they go through and knowing the training that they're expected to know, I know what's expected of them. Y'all haven't been through that training, so you don't know what to expect of them. But the more time you spend with me and the more we share with one another, the more y'all will know about what they expect or what is expected of them. The level of training that Chief Elliott requires of them, and it's not just Chief Elliott; it's the citizens of Jonesboro. Because you don't want half-trained policemen.
No,
you want professional policemen, and that's what we strive for. And when I go to a community event and somebody says, well, this officer did this, I can say, I know that they weren't trained that way, or I know that that's exactly how they're trained to do what we've asked them to do. So thank goodness that officer paid attention in training, and thank goodness that officer followed the rules.
And we got a Facebook comment from Keisha Hagens. She says, Sergeant Waterworth is an outstanding guy. My husband and I have so much respect for him.
She is a fantastic lady. She must be to put up with Jay as many years as she's had to put up with Jay.
and Officer Hagens is a good guy as well. And it's mentioned fantastic. And you mentioned when someone says, well, this officer did this officer did that. You said, well, no, that's not how that person was trained, or we trained them better. Because, at the NAACP meeting in which you spoke, in which we live streamed, we did have a comment on the live feed about, well, I don't trust the police. I don't like police officers. And it's going to kind of transition me into my next question. Obviously, you have trained several of the minority officers that have come through. And, of course, Chief says all the time, thanks to our partnership with JPD, that we've helped to increase the number of minorities on the force. And it's definitely something that we continue to want to strive to do. But what are some of the stories what are some of those conversations like with minority officers in the car, dealing with the special challenges that they encounter being African Americans in policing? So
talking to in the black community, talking to the black officers, the harassment, and harassment may be a strong word.
Okay.
But the names that they get called, I don't know what that's like, right? I'm just I'm a standard white male policeman that is the typical prototype policeman. When people like Officer Hagens, like all the other minority officers that we get, when they get into the minority community, people quit talking to them. People who have been their friends for years. Mm-hmm. Quit talking to them because they've been called traitors. They've been called lots of things, just because of where they go to work, just because of the calling that they have been called to do. Because I don't think a policeman is a profession. Just like a preacher is not a profession. A nurse is not a profession. You have to be spiritually called to do this job, because if you're not, if you're coming to do this job for the money,
you won't make it.
You're not going to make it. And if you're just coming to do this job because you want to do this job, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it. And one of a few things is going to happen. You're going to do something. You're going to do something wrong, and you're going to get called out for it. You're going to realize that this is working at night, on the weekends, on holidays,
away from your family,
wondering what is going to go at this next call. It's it's so difficult for these guys working the shifts, and then you add friends, people who are their friends, and I've talked about it even in the beginning when they had not taken a law enforcement action at all, when all they had done was start and be sworn in and be sitting at tables much like this, two little baby policemen at a table, and we're talking and we're reading over policy, and I have one of our female African American officers say, I went to a friend's house last night and they told me I couldn't be there.
You would think that having someone that looks like them on the police force would be a positive thing. We talk about this with schools. We want children to have as much representation, whether male, female, black, white, Hispanic, whatever. Mm-hmm. We want children to have representation in schools and other areas of their life. Can't we have why can't representation be positive? And
let me add to that, my goal here with, providing this community forum and in helping to recruit minority officers, I always said be the change in which you seek. And I would hope by these, officers joining the force, that for people like yourself who don't know, they can share those experiences, and it can help to, make the department overall better. So I hope that they have taught you something.
Absolutely. I've gotten a lot of takeaways from it, because if I don't learn from that, and I don't learn how to deal with that, I'm going to lose those. I'm going to lose those minority officers that we get in. So what I did as the training coordinator is Shay Racy is a longtime officer, a longtime minority officer at the Jonesboro Police Department. He's been there, I think, 15 years.
Oh, wow.
So some of the first things I do when we have minority officers hired, some of the first things I do is I take African American officers to speak to Shay Racy. I take females, and there's several female officers, because it's different for females too.
I'm sure your wife is one of them.
I happen to think female police officers make outstanding police officers, mostly because my wife is one of my favorite police officers. But anyway, if we don't use what we have, we'll lose what we've built.
Amen.
And we have to get together. We have to share those experiences. And our guys. One of the questions, or one of the things that came up the other night, was inclusion. And I think Jay said it best: is there's no such thing as not included, especially when you're fighting with a bad guy, or especially when somebody we care about deeply has been hurt. There's a brotherhood and sisterhood within the police department that it doesn't matter if you were green. We love each other, and we're family too. Now we got brothers and sisters, and I know that y'all had brothers and sisters who butt heads, but at the end of the day, we're going to be there, and we're going to take care of each other.
And I'm glad that you said it, because that was one of the things that came up on the NAACP feed and Officer Hagens was asked the question, has he experienced discrimination or racism within the department, and he answered that. And, obviously I don't know the internal workings of the police department, but I would think that, Chief Elliott wouldn't stand for something like that going on inside this department.
No.
Absolutely not. Go back to that. What led us into that question was the trust. People don't trust the police, and people don't want to call the police because they don't trust the police. You ever try and get a kid to eat a food? If you present a kid a Brussels sprout, love Brussels sprouts, but when I was a kid, I hated them.
I was the same about broccoli.
And broccoli, same thing. But
I just hate how to get to my teeth now. But I love the taste.
But if the first time you see it, it's I can't get along with that. Then maybe the next time it's like, no. And then maybe the fourth or fifth time you put it on your plate, but the more familiar you get with,
put some cheese on it.
You the more familiar you get with the broccoli or the Brussels sprouts, the better you're going to like it. And if people will get familiar with what we do, if people will get familiar with if police will get familiar with police, if police will get familiar with the community, if the community will get familiar with us, it's going to help build those relationships, and that trust will get there. A friend that you were friends with in high school may not be a friend now because you've been away from them, you've been separated. And if you're separated, you lose that connection, and we got to have connections. This is a fantastic, KLEK has been a fantastic way for us to plug in to the minority community.
And we're glad for the opportunity. And plus, officers, we were talking before the show began about some of the things officers are doing in the community. We brought up Officer Blake Easley, who put together the Trunk or Treat, in which KLEK partners with him on. I come out each year and I DJ, and everybody always talks about how they enjoy the music, and so many people come together, and Officer Easy is actually being recognized for an award from the Advantage program for that. And like you said, there's many of other stories that don't get publicity of good things that officers do as well. We got a few Facebook comments. Joanna Renita says it's up to the community to want a change. Minority officers must know that the color of your skin is hidden by the uniform. And yes, there are places you cannot go. And she says, keep up the good work. And she says, hello, Sergeant Waterworth. And let's go to the shout-outs. See if we have any news. Anthony Martin, Frank Plusinski, Corey Evans Hester, Keisha Hagans, Joanna Renita, David Carnes, and Jeff Presley. Appreciate each and every one of you for checking in on our Facebook Live feed.
Thank you, everyone. One thing I would just love to see is people really embracing all of our officers. Yes, unfortunately we do. And every time we talk about bridging the gap, building relationships, there's always someone that says, what about the bad officers? Yes, there's good and bad everywhere. I saw a video on Facebook, and it was in St. Louis. It was, I think, the 1-year anniversary of someone getting killed by the hands of police there, and people were still protesting, in essence.
The Michael Brown incident?
It wasn't Michael Brown. But it was obviously a very controversial case because the police officer was not convicted, in essence. And so people were very upset. And so it was on the 1-year anniversary, they took to the streets. And so you could see on one side a gang of police with their shields and things, and people over here. So one guy approached an officer, and the officer was backing up. And so the guy was, heckling, confronting him, like, so you're backing up, you're running, you're scared or whatever. And the officer was like, look, I'm doing my job. He's like, oh, so you're with them. He's like, I'm just doing my job, trying to protect everyone else around here. And that kind of, I guess, saddens me because, one, it was a black officer and a black person. So it's like, you're giving this person more grief instead of saying, let's come to the table. Let's talk about this. How can we fix the system or work on fixing the system? The police officers didn't let that other officer go. It was the court system, the justice system. So let's talk about how we can fix, in essence, the
And then I have another case I want to bring up.
Okay, so I don't know how we fix it. I really don't. Other than communication. If I came in here and when I first introduced myself to you, if I'd have yelled at you and yelled at the top of my lungs when you and I were trying to talk, would you listen? No.
I would be like...
You'd have shut down, exactly. So when we have a conversation, we have to talk and not yell. And we have to learn to communicate more than we have to learn to yell at one another. And it starts at the lowest level. Police officers don't have anything to do with the justice system other than we are who put people into the justice system. We are the avenue, we are the plug-in. We don't have anything to do with sentencing. We don't have anything to do with anything other than keeping people protected and getting people into the justice system.
Well, let's bring this up. When it comes time for election, get to know who's running for different positions for the circuit, district court judge, or whatever the case may be, or who's running for prosecuting attorney. Get to know these people and start making some noise. Go to city council meetings
and of course, when they come on Community Conversations, call in or leave your questions on our live feed and ask some questions. That's one of the things that we do. And of course, we're in another election season, so we will have candidates coming on for all of the local offices. So when these people come on, this is your direct access to them. Take advantage of it. Ask them questions, and if you don't agree with the position that they hold, call them out on it and give them an opportunity to respond. Remember, they got to earn your vote. No voice, no vote, no voice. All votes matter. In my BT Groove voice.
All right. Did you say you had a point?
I do, and I want to ask Lyle about this case, and I'm sure he may be familiar with, is the case of Officer Stephen Mader in Weirton, West Virginia. Basically, the story was this officer encountered a young black man. He had a gun, but he was suicidal. And instead of immediately shooting the young man, he's trying to de-escalate. He's trying to, try to get him to put the gun down and trying to reason things out. And a couple other officers come up. They see this guy's holding a gun, and they shoot him. And Officer, what's his name again? Officer Mader is fired for improper police procedure, sues the department, and actually wins a settlement. And basically he's saying, well, when I served in Marines, we were trained to de-escalate. I was just trying to use my training. I didn't see him as a threat. And it later turned out the young man's gun wasn't even loaded. He was just, again, suicidal, thought he was at the end of his rope, but, he ended up losing his life. So, because weighing what you know about police procedure and training, of course, I did Citizens Police Academy, and, you all taught us that, you stop the threat, and, if somebody has a gun, your reaction is to, take it out. But, this guy was like, well, I don't see him as a threat. I'm sure if the guy had pointed a gun at him, he would have shot him. But just what are your thoughts when you hear of a case like this?
So, one, it's some stuff that you got to think about. It's something, I talked about this just the other day. There's not a policeman in the world that I know that got up one morning and shook off the cobwebs and stretched out and said, you know what, today I'm going to go to work and hurt somebody. That's not what any policeman wants to do. The officers that took that man's life, it's a life. And those guys, whether justified or not, have to deal with that for the rest of their life. It's something that, no matter how callous a person is, it's going to wear on them. We teach to de-escalate. However, if we can't de-escalate, we have to take action. We can't just stand there and try and talk the whole way through, because if it's a criminal action, we have to stop it, because I'm not there just to protect me. I'm there to protect you, right? I'm there to protect the person with the I'm gonna, for lack of a better term, this guy wasn't. It sounds like he was a suicidal person more than
it was a domestic situation. I'm guessing he got into it with his girlfriend and wife, and I guess he was depressed over that, and maybe she was. I don't know the full details. Maybe she was gonna leave him or something.
And again, I can't talk to the facts of the case because I don't really know the case that well, but. If I show up and somebody's there talking and somebody's there working this problem out, I need to let this guy work this problem out, and be there ready to protect that officer, and ready to protect myself and that other person. So I feel like if he was de-escalating the problem and the problem was coming down, then I feel like he was doing the right thing. Again, I don't know all the facts of the situation.
Well, it's an interesting case, and I would encourage you to to check it out, because again, when people in the black community see that, because it was one of the few times I actually seen on social media where black people said, we need more officers like him. Why can't the rest of them be like this guy? he was actually trying to do the right thing, and look what they did to him. And it kind of, again, put the rest of the officers in a negative light, because, you know, he was one that was actually trying to help this guy, and the others come bang bang, and he's dead. And so you've got that tension. We're gonna have to leave it right there, but don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more with Sergeant. I quit.
You got a side chick or sidekick, one of the two. No.
Then I have a side chick. And in my Kelly Danforth's voice, I can at least get this one right. This is KLEK, 102.5 FM.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
We're back with Money Matters. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. Home ownership is a major factor in the capacity to build lasting wealth, but there will be times in your life when renting just makes sense. Before moving into your apartment, make sure you always keep at least 1 month's rent in your savings account, separate and apart from the minimum of 6 months of living expenses you keep in emergency savings. This gives you a cushion in the event you lose part or all of your income for a short period. And remember, your security deposit does not count. You cannot ask your landlord to use it toward your rent, as it's collateral for the apartment itself. It will only be returned, minus the cost of repairing damage beyond normal wear and tear, after your rental term is up, the unit has been inspected, and you have moved out. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. for Money Matters, a product of American Urban Radio Networks.
Money Matters is made possible by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization dedicated to uncompromising commitment to communities, service, leadership, empowerment. www.jonesboroalumnidst.org.
Money Matters is brought to you by Bancorp South, offering checking, savings, loans, credit cards, and wealth management. 5 locations in Jonesboro to serve you. www.bancorpsouth.com or 870-972-9800.
Hello, this is Quabila from Community Conversations. We at KLEK 102.5 FM strive every day to give to you. We strive to give you music that uplifts you. We strive to give you information to keep you informed about news, candidates, and the issues. We strive to give you a place where all voices can be heard. We strive to give you stories of people making a difference for 3 years and counting. We at KLEK have strived to give you our very best. We hope and pray that somehow, in some way, KLEK has helped to enrich your life. If so, please consider giving to us so that we may continue to give to you as your community radio station. KLEK is hosting our first annual pledge drive, March 15th through the 18th, from 6 o'clock a.m. to 6 o'clock p.m. each day. Community leaders and regular people just like you will tell their stories on how KLEK has helped them, and you will have an opportunity to call in and make your pledge of support. If you don't want to wait until March 15th, go to our website, www.klekfm.org. Click the donate button and make your donation now. All donations are tax deductible. Please consider giving to us so that we may give back to you.
The key to making this station even better could be parked in your driveway right now. Donate your old car to us, you'll get a tax deduction, and we'll tow it away for free.
Go to klekfm.org for more information.
House of Details, located at 3217 Herb Street, Suite C, is a proud supporter of KLEK, offering detailing on any type of vehicle. Waxing, clear coat protection, basic wash, hand wash, shampoo, interior cleaning, buffering, headlight restoration, pickup, delivery, and more. With a motto of, anything mean, we can clean. Details available via Quentin Bogard at 870-273-5187. House of Details on Facebook and houseofdetailsjonesboro.com.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
And we're back on Community Conversations on KLEK with our guest, Sergeant Lyle Waterworth of the Jonesboro Police Department. He is the new Community Relations Officer. And we've been having a great conversation. We want to definitely thank Lyle for stopping by the studio, and we look forward to having him come along either by himself or with Chief Elliott. And Chief Elliott will be on next Wednesday for his normal time slot. The reason why we actually are doing this slot today, because of the weather, we weren't able to do last month's show, and Chief had another engagement. And so this was a perfect opportunity to introduce Sergeant Waterworth to the community. I just have one more question scenario, and then I'm going to turn it back over to Quabila. Okay, so obviously we've had the school shooting in Florida, and one of the things that you're hearing a lot about is we should arm teachers. And of course there's been a lot of comments about that, but one of the comments is well, when the police come in, if teachers armed, they don't know who's the bad guy, because you got teachers with guns, you got an active shooter with guns, and then also the fact that the SRO, the school resource officer, was there, did not go in because he just had a standard police issue weapon, and the shooter had an AR, and so he, wasn't so quick to jump in on the situation. To be honest with you, I would think the same thing. I've got a Glock and you got an AR. I'm not liking my chances, but I want to kind of just get your thoughts on all of this as a police officer, because it's a different perspective as opposed to the average citizen.
So, I swore to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. I am a part of the same community, and if I could have stopped it at 14, what if I could have stopped it at 12? What if I could have stopped it at 10? He may have more firepower than I've got, but I'm trained. I am a gun carrying professional. Okay, you don't want amateurs doing this, right? Who watches amateur football? I guess a lot of people watch college.
Well, other than parents who watch their kids play high school ball,
right? But they don't show that on TV, right? A lot of times, well, Texas does, but anyway, because you want the best of the best protecting your most precious commodity. Okay, so I have to go. I am obligated to go. Okay. I'm going to do what I can. I may be carrying a thimble to put out a fire, a thimble full of water to put out a fire, but I'm going to do what I can to stop the fight. I want to do what I can to either get him put down, or at least stopped in one location, get him in a central location until I get help there. To the teaching, to arming teachers, I don't want anybody that's not comfortable with a gun. Okay. For the most part, we have female teachers. My wife is a female professional gun carrier. One of the things she talks about is you can't find breeches. I call them breeches, with belt loops to hold the gun up. Okay. And so what's a logical place where do a lot of ladies carry their gun? Either in their purse or in their bra. So it's harder to get to. It's not as easily accessible. If somebody's trained and they want to carry a gun, I don't know how safe it would be, but if they, that's one more good guy with a gun. Now, when the police get there, there's some steps. So there would have to be some policies and some training put into place. But back to that, I want to bring up something. The police department is about to embark on a major endeavor training, and we're going to try and get all the teachers trained, and we're going to try and get all the kids trained in active shooter philosophy. And the philosophy we're going to be doing is avoid, deny, and defend. So if you can get away from the bad guy, let's get away from the bad guy, because if there's easy targets, The easy targets are going to stay and be targets. But if I'm not there, I'm not a target, right? And then I'm going to deny him access to the room. I'm going to lock that room down just as hard as I can get it locked down. I'm going to barricade that room as best I can, and then I'm going to defend myself. Don't be an easy target. How many we all watched that black and white Superman? You know, when they were shooting at the Superman, he'd stand there and take those bullets in the chest. But what did he do as soon as the gun got thrown at him? He dodged it, right? Okay. So start throwing. Even Superman dodges. So start throwing stuff at him, and now he can't think about hurting me. And that's what I want to do, is I want him to not be thinking about hurting me, and I want to get his mind off of that. And if I get his mind off of that, I can get away, or somebody else can get away, and we've done what we're supposed to do.
Even though I don't have a child in school right now, it is still kind of unnerving to think now we have to start teaching kids active shooter skills. Mm-hmm. Like one of my friends who does have children in school, her daughter came home, "Oh Mom, we did a drill today. You know, we practiced some emergency drill something," and her mom was like, "Oh, really? But did you know that?" And her mom was kind of blunt, and I feel like you just kind of bust her little bubble. But she told her, "Well, really, you all were doing a drill in case there was a shooter in the school." She said her daughter's face went from, here to zero to. I was like, okay, you just crushed her little soul, but. It's sad that we have to start teaching our kids this reality.
But if we're honest about it and we talk about it, it's just like everything else. If we just sort of pretend like it's not going to happen and we push it to the back of our mind, then what happens to us? If we talk about it and we communicate, hey, this is not good. This is not a good thing to be doing. This is not something that we should be having to teach our kids. However, we do have to teach our kids, and maybe learning it and maybe learning what to do, talking about it may prevent the next one.
All right. I usually joke with you. I know he laughs in his head at me, but I tell him that I would never own a gun simply because I know me and my wishy-washy emotions. I don't fight. I don't, put hands on anybody. I will shoot you or stab you before I will fight you. And for that reason, I would not own a gun because I know me.
Right.
And going back to the teachers having guns, what if you have a teacher who is overly emotional? What if they're taking anti-anxiety medication?
Or even worse, the kid, steals the gun.
And that's what we go back to. We go back to the ability to protect that weapon, and that's the first and foremost thing that we've got to worry about is protecting that weapon. We don't carry our guns out where people can grab them. We carry them in secure holsters.
Yeah. So do you want someone unstable, emotionally unstable?
I don't want anybody emotionally unstable owning a gun. That's part of the problem.
That's nothing you got to deal with when you roll up.
Right. That's part of the problem in Florida is that we got that an emotionally unstable man bought a rifle.
And then one last scenario: what if a teacher is fed up with a class? It's an urban school or it's a classroom that's problem.
And that's a concern of black parents. That.
And
they confront with a white teacher who, because I even saw articles said if teachers get armed, I'm pulling my kid out of school and homeschooling them.
And great thing about our country, if that's what you want to do, you can. And I'm not a big fan of arming teachers, but I can't say I'm not going to be the one that says, hey, you can't do that. Mm-hmm. But what I can say is. One, I'm glad my kids are done with school.
Okay.
And if I need to, I can pull my kids out of school.
All right, Sergeant Waterworth, any final comments about your job, things that you hope to accomplish in the position, how people can reach out to you?
My email address is lwaterworth@jonesboro.org. lwaterworth@jonesboro.org. And if you want to contact me, if you want to get me information, if you want to talk to me about anything, feel free to email me. That's the best way to get in touch with me. I want our community to be a community. I don't want to have a minority community. I don't want to have a rich community. I don't want to have a white community. I want to have Jonesboro. And Jonesboro has to come together and share with one another. And I mean, we're already one of the best economic cities in the state. I want to be better. I want, and community is what's going to make us better.
And we thank you for that. Thank you for stopping by. And of course, we welcome you to come back anytime. And once again, shout out to the birthday girl. I won't say what chapter it is. You can find out on her social media. Have a blessed day. This is Kate, LEK, 102.5 FM.
Thank you for listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
KLEK LP, Jonesboro, the voice of